happened also then in the next century. It gave rise to what's called by historians the cult of true womanhood. And we can show that next slide here. What that was is it relegated women to the sphere of the home as the wife and mother, as the embodiment of female existence. This is a picture from the Godey's Lady Book at that time, and that was a very popular women's publication. And you can see here it says the constant at the top. And so, this is just really showing that that's all that they feel that women are. That's just the epitome of why we exist. And so this next song, the song that I'd first like to share with you, reinforces this idea of a woman's sphere. It's actually called Keep Woman in Her Sphere. And it's a famous song found in many suffrage campaign books of that time period. And this was written, as many songs were, that were set to a familiar melody, and it was just new words that were written for the particular theme that was being discussed. And so listen out for this familiar melody. I would really like to know from all of you afterwards if you recognize what is the original tune. So this is Keep Woman in Her Sphere. recognize that song still today says a whole lot about the strategy behind them selecting a piece like this for what's called a contrafact, this newly created song, right? So we created this song by adding new text to a familiar melody. Why do we feel like perhaps that was the choice that was made? Why choose Auld Lang Syne for a song about women's suffrage? Any ideas? Well, for one thing, it was so familiar that there was no need to print sheet music. And so that made it a lot less expensive and a lot less complicated for those women to produce those booklets that have these songs. All of it would be, actually, can we go to the next slide? Here's an example. I'm so sorry to have all those windows open for you. I think it's been, yeah, perfect. Thing. Yeah, so this next picture here, this is just one example of many such suffrage song sheets, as they were called. And this was just a very small booklet, similar to about the size of our yearbook, that just had the words to the songs, and at the top it would just have the melody and then just the name of the melody. And so that would be all that it took for these people to learn these songs, because they knew the melodies. And women also at this time were having increasing difficulty with contracts because of the rights that we did not have yet. And so it was a lot easier for women to get a contract to print something like this than to print sheet music. So this really made it very advantageous. Quick and easy to learn. They could learn these pieces in a meeting in a matter of minutes and then be out on the streets marching or having that camaraderie almost instantly. But there was also a very important strategy behind these particular melodies. It wasn't just that they were catchy. It wasn't just that they were familiar. It was the specific sentimental attachment that the general population had to these songs. And we all know the words of Auld Lang Syne today, right? Don't take a cup of kindness yet. It's a very sentimental piece about loving your fellow man and showing kindness to others. And so the strategy was to pair these new words with a sentimental song in order to make a very radical idea a lot more palatable. And so that was a really great strategy that the suffragists continued to employ throughout the entirety of the movement. So the next piece we are going to show you, so what we heard in this song, we heard three different kinds of men, right, that we encountered. So the first was just that traditional sexist man. Second was the abusive alcoholic. And the third was this forward thinker who was willing to stand up for the rights of women. And let's go ahead to the next slide, if you don't mind, to show this. So Frederick Douglass is someone that when we think of women's suffrage, we really need to think of him almost immediately. He was the one actually at the very first convention, women's rights convention in Seneca Falls, New York in 1848. And he was the one that stood up in favor of putting suffrage, women's suffrage, on the official Declaration of Sentiments from that convention. So it's very ironic because this convention is, according to historians, the official beginning of the women's suffrage movement in America. Why? Because women's suffrage was officially on the Declaration of Sentiments. And so it's very important to remember that without Frederick Douglass, that simply would not have been the case. And you can see in the next slide here is a picture of all of the list of the signatures, the list of those who signed. And so you'll see there's Elizabeth Cady Stanton, there's Frederick Douglass. Ironically, too, we think of Susan B. Anthony as the mother of the movement, but she actually was not at this convention. It was not until the 1850s that she met Elizabeth Cady Stanton and really started to be involved in this movement. So if we can go ahead to the next slide here, we're going to jump a bit now. So as women's rights continued to gain traction, a fashion craze in the summer of 1851 illustrated the ways that this cause was affecting all aspects of life. And as radical as this kind of attire may have seemed to those during this time period, it was actually grounded in a very simple, very understandable need for less binding clothing for women, as this bluer costume allowed greater physical health with the elimination of overlay binding corsets. And it also made it so much easier to get around and get things done because women were not having to deal with all of this excess fabric. They were liberated from all of this bulky extra fabric. And so that was something that they really enjoyed. And this next song is a parlor piece. So this is actually completely new words and completely new music. And this is a song which laments the ridicule one such wearer of this costume endured as a result of daring to wear the pants. And this is the Bloomer's Complaint.
Yes, we call those piggyback songs. Oh, piggyback song. Oh, I love that. Put that in my... Thank you. See, you learn something new every day. Okay. Terrible tragedy raised because of a gossiping rumor. Declares with your hands lifted up in amaze that I'm coming out of the bloomer. That I'm coming out of the bloomer. I wonder how often these men must be told when a woman a notion once seizes. However they ridicule, lecture, or scold, she'll do after all as she pleases. She'll do after all as she pleases. They know very well that their own passions change with each little change of the season. But oh, it is monstrous and dreadful and strange. And out of all manner of reason, and out of all manner of reason. If we should take fancy to alter our dress and come out in style a la bloomer, to hear what an outcry they make, I confess, it is putting me quite out of humor. It is putting me quite out of humor. I'll come up next week in this wide humor fest, in a style that I fancy will frighten. I had not intended to go for to that, but I'll do it now only to spite them. Yes, I'll do it now only to spite them. With my pants on the turn and my skirts 2 feet long, all fitting of course most completely. Those grumblers will own after all they are wrong, and that I love Luna sweetly, and that I love Luna sweetly, yes, that I love Luna sweetly.
Thank you. That is such a fun song. I really love that one. But you know, it's important to keep in mind, despite that upbeat tune and the lighthearted style, its references, and you know, here we go to this. Thank you so much. So if you heard in that second verse particularly, it was referencing bloomer wearers being monstrous, strange, out of all manner of reason, and really out of all manner of reason really meant there was something mentally disturbed about these women. And it really touches on a huge challenge that the suffrage movement faced throughout its entire existence, which one was that if you wanted to wear the pants, if you wanted to vote, that there was something wrong with you, right? We see here in this picture that you were not a normal or a real woman. And so it was for this reason that despite the comfort and the increased facility that this new dress afforded them, the suffragists decided to revert back to traditional feminine. And so now, for the sake of time, we're actually going to make a huge leap forward chronologically to 1916. Although it's very interesting to note how much has actually remained the same since we last saw the bloomer woman complaining. This next song is a ragtime number, and let's go ahead to the next slide if you don't mind. Thank you. Let's see. You know what? Let's do there. So here's a piece of sheet music from the bloomer time period. We see when women go to vote, and this is actually the woman standing there in that top hat and tails. Okay, yes, with the poor dad. Oh, poor dad. Home with the kids, the very idea. And the sign saying, what is home without a mother? So this really was that either or mentality, that all or nothing, right? That women voting was a direct threat to this home life. And so let's keep this image in our minds and compare it with this next one, which is a cover of the sheet music that you'll hear. She's good enough to be her baby's mother, and she's good enough to vote with you. And we see here the strategy that the pro-suffragists are using here. Right? This is a very young, very attractive mother with a little boy, right? And so what you'll hear with the words of this song is that not only is this not a sound argument, but actually in the raising of our nation's most important heroes, women have proven time and again that they are worthy of the vote, that they are worthy of equal rights. So this is, she's good enough to be your baby's mother.
No man is greater than his mother. No man is half so good. and plunge the world in war and madness. She must protest in vain. It's not the grey one can we hear her say. Stop all this madness, I bring you gladness. She's good enough to give you Holy Lincoln. She's good enough to give you Benny Franklin, Ulysses Grant, and Washington too. She was so true, she gave them to you. She's good enough to give you Teddy Roosevelt, Thomas A. Edison too. She's good enough to give you Woodrow Wilson, and she's good enough to vote with
Thank you, ladies, so much. I really appreciate that. Such a fun song to do. And so we'll jump now again a little bit chronological here. After decades of campaigning, of protesting, of marching, war efforts, and jail time, enduring both mental and physical abuse, suffragists finally saw the ratification of the 19th Amendment into federal law in August of 1920. It was and remains a great achievement that deserves to be celebrated. However, the struggle for equality within our nation was far from over. As just a few examples, it would take another 4 years. Again, could you switch to this next slide for me? Thank you so much. So here we're going to see. So here's Miss Alice Paul celebrating. Alice was was a DAR member, so that's a very interesting part of our history there. So celebrating, of course. But let's think about how far we have yet to come. So in the next slide here, you will see that it took actually another 4 years until Native Americans were officially and legally recognized as U.S. citizens. Think about that. Another 28 years after that, before immigrants of Asian descent were allowed to become naturalized citizens. So here we have a group, this is in San Francisco, a group of Japanese Americans finally taking the Pledge of Allegiance as citizens. And that took an additional 28 years. And also theoretically, though they were theoretically enfranchised by the 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendments, most African American men and women would not be able to fully exercise their right to vote until the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. And in the next slide here, you can see President Johnson signing this into law. We see Martin Luther King there, and actually the lady in gloves with a handbag is Rosa Parks. So that's just things to think about in that we have so much to celebrate, but we still have a lot. We have a long way to go. And to this day, ladies, as we know, that is still up to us. And so what I like to think about, when I think about the 19th Amendment, I think about all of the things that we had to do to overcome all of the adversity to finally get the right to vote. To me, it is really an inspiration for our engaged citizenship going forward. And that it's up to us to stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us in order to really make our nation the place that we all want it to be. So this next piece that I'll share with you is another contract, or it's another piggyback piece by another, actually, we know this as the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Julia Ward Howe actually was a DAR member as well. And so we are taking her famous song, and we are going to hear the Suffrage Battle Hymn, also known as the New Emancipation Women's Rights. And what I've actually done in true traditional fashion with this piece, I've actually written the first of words for the third verse myself, because I really wanted to show that this song can go full circle. We can think about the wonderful accomplishments that we have had, but we can also think about what that means for us today and how we can go forward. And of course, this wonderful group of women here, we're all such engaged, amazing patriots. And so truly, the embodiment of this third verse, I think there is no more fitting group to sing this for than for you. So this is the New Emancipation Women's Rights, the Suffrage Battle. There's a priceless proclamation to the daughters of the race, with co-equal rights and honors, and with equal power and place.
bears the stamp of justice and the seal of heavenly grace, as truth is marching on. It's alright to serve a nation in its every hour of need. It's alright to cast the bat on a country's laws and creeds, and to show that by the lawful execution of these deeds, the truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. That truth is marching
Thank you all so much, ladies. It was so much fun to finally be able to perform a part of this in person. You have no idea. It's just been wonderful. So thank you all so much for being such a captive and engaged audience. More information about this concert will be forthcoming, and so we sure hope that you'll stay tuned, and there may be some things that we might need your assistance on. So something you would be able to participate in, we sure would appreciate it. Thank you again. Oh my goodness.
My nail was done.
Don't leave this moment. Okay, grab it. Thank you. That's just a small taste of what she has in her program. So I really do want to encourage you to make an effort to come to this program in July. And as Audrey said, more information will be forthcoming. So it's on to our memorial tribute. For those who are new, each year we have a memorial, just a very short memorial service for those who have passed during the year. And our chaplain, Sarah Johnson, will perform that memorial service.
quiet and grateful hearts remember before God our beloved dead, Evelyn Wendell and Ann Watt, and also our founding regent, Georgia Hatcher. They have left our earthly companionship, but still they live within our hearts. The remembrance of them is dear and blessed. They are not dead who live in the hearts they leave behind. And those whom they have left, they live a life again. Eternal life is theirs throughout the years, and time declares their immortality. This is 1 Thessalonians 4:13 and 14. But I do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you sorrow as others, who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who sleep in Jesus. If you would please join me in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we are gathered together in remembrance of our beloved daughters who have departed this life. We are thankful, Lord, for their friendship, compassion, love, and unending service to the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. We treasure the many memories that we hold so dear. Blessed are those who have learned to acclaim you and walk in the light of your presence, O Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please, after the meeting, take a moment to come up and remember these ladies in your heart and look at their lovely pictures. And we thank Kathy for bringing the picture. And the picture of Anne is one that was taken at our 125th anniversary, chapter anniversary celebration. And she chose the one that was taken there of her as her official Regent's portrait. Okay, so it's on to our business meeting. Six years ago, I was a fairly new DAR member when Ann Watt asked me to consider becoming vice regent of this chapter. Keep in mind, I knew very little of what DAR was all about at this point. I asked what the job entailed, and she said that I would be mostly in charge of programming. Well, that didn't sound too complicated, so I accepted, and I learned more detail than that. But anyway, I'm really glad I accepted. But at that time, my naivety and lack of knowledge led me down roads that I never thought I'd go down, including that of becoming regent of the General de Lafayette chapter for the past 3 years. For starters, believe it or not, I tend to be on the shy side, and I avoid public, unless you know me, okay? I avoid public speaking like the plague. To say public speaking is out of my comfort zone would be an understatement. But here I am standing in front of many well-educated, professional, and exceptional women. It's been an honor for me, and I want to thank you all for putting your faith and trust in me. And although I'm far from perfect, I can honestly say I've done my very best to serve as regent. Because of all the hard work and dedication of many members, we have become respected and recognized throughout the city, state, and country. Another truth that I've learned these past few years is that saying goodbye is one of the hardest parts of life. Each year we say goodbye to friends we've grown to love and respect. And this year was especially difficult. Ann Watt, honorary regent and former registrar, was the first member I met. And I remember going to my first meeting, and I begged, can I please sit by you? I don't know anybody. So anyway, I weaned myself off Ann eventually, but I do have very fond memories of her. I had the privilege of serving on the board with her as vice regent for 3 years. She dedicated many years to this chapter. And Evelyn Wendell's death has also left a hole in the hearts of many of us who knew and loved her. If anybody who knew Evelyn just loved her. She just radiated joy and kindness, and she was just somebody that you gravitated to, you loved to be around. And although it's a different kind of goodbye, it's also hard to say goodbye to current board members. And this is the part where I'm not going to cry, I promise. Even though we're excited to welcome new board members. The consolation here is that they'll still going to be part of our DAR family, but I would like to take just a minute to recognize the outgoing board members with us today for the years of dedication and service. I'm going to make this brief because I've already shed tears privately over this one. Deidre Duncan has been my friend, confidant, and leader partner for 3 years. We've been through many ups and downs together, and Deidre's loyalty to the chapter and to me personally have been extraordinary. So Deidre, would you come forward to accept this small token of appreciation for your service? The most important. This is something to drink it with. And then, if you know me, you know I love to thrift, and I found a thrift item for you. So pass it on if you don't like
I probably can't say this without blowing my eyes out, but Diana has meant so much to me over the past years. We've been through a lot together. Gotten into trouble. But she has so many ideas that's just unbelievable. She can't get through one idea without another one coming in. Sometimes you have to think, well, she's really got ADD. But if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would have stuck around. I wasn't too excited about DAR until we sat next to each other one day. And from there, I'm going to miss this. I mean, I'm going to be around, but I'm going to miss being with you.
So Deidre's stepping away for a very noble reason. She needs to take care of her father, and I understand that. And one of the reasons we incorporated adding another regent to our roster is because, my dad also was suffering from Alzheimer's, so I'm really help. Okay. So Karen Brand is also stepping down as our registrar. She has done an incredible job in her role. I wasn't sure anybody could fill Ann Watt's shoes, but she did a darn good job, and now somebody's going to have to fill her shoes. Anyway, her work is quite noticeable as we've welcomed many new members over the past 3 years. She always goes above and beyond and has been known to travel out of town, even out of state, to track down the lead for us respective members' genealogy. And that's usually not the case in other chapters around the country. If you don't get your own genealogy, you're out of luck. But Karen goes that extra mile, and her committee has also done a lot. But I'm thankful that Karen has agreed to continue as assistant registrar, but wanted to offer thanks to her for the hundreds of hours she put into this vital work. Oh, Deidre forgot to give me your certificate. So Karen, if you would come forward. And I'd like to thank you for all your dedicated service to the chapter. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to recognize our treasurer, Mary Ann Robinson, who has done an incredible job keeping our finances and records straight. We have been blessed to have treasurers who are highly qualified to handle this position. If it weren't for the fact that a CPA wasn't in line to take her place, I'd be in full panic mode. People like Marion are hard to replace, and I can't thank her enough for the job, incredible, outstanding job she has done for the last 2 years as our treasurer.
To ask this treasurer, it's the last time the bill bothered you. We have our coin boxes on the table. So if you wouldn't mind annoying Diana as she's trying to stand up here and talk, there's a clinking of coins on the table. And thank you to Diane for all the help you've given me. A couple times, especially that first year, where it's like, okay, I gotta decide. I can't do it. It knocked me off the ledge. So anybody that is thinking about in the future taking a leadership position, with a lot of support, a lot of help, you can do it.
Well, she's such a perfectionist that, you know, she missed 2 cents in there or something, or I forget what it was, and she thought she should resign. It's a mistake we make all the time. I mean, I need her to see my checkbook. But anyway, thank you, Marianne, you've been outstanding. And I'm going to give the certificate to Karen to give Devin as a working lady, but she's been our historian for the past 3 years, and she participated in the walk and did an incredible job, and she's very good historian, and I hope when she retires someday you'll see her up here as regent. So Karen, would you please help? I might go come to, yeah. Okay, and for our business meeting. So today is the day, every 3 years, for those who are new, we do elect officers. And most officers can, it's for a 3-year term. Most officers can serve for 2 consecutive terms. And so I've served 1 consecutive term as regent, and as I said, I'm willing to do it another time. But, and then I think there's 3, the treasurer, there's 3 positions that we feel are sort of like the treasurer and the registrar. Is that the only one, Joyce, that we can have an indefinite number of years? So, just because it's hard, there's a lot to the treasurer's job, and you have to pretty much know what you're doing. So it's hard to find treasurers around the country. So I think those are the only 2. Is that correct? Okay. They're in your bylaws. So the bylaws, if you don't know, are in the back of this, of your chapter yearbook. If you don't have a chapter yearbook, see Marion, I think she has extra.
Yeah.
Okay, Marion has extra. We will be having new ones published for the fall. So if you're not in this book now because you're new, you will be in the next one. So if there are any changes to your phone number or address, please let Karen Van know as soon as possible, and she will get that changed for you. So the nominating committee has contacted people that they thought would be good in the position, and so our bylaws state that before you can actually be nominated, that nominee must have been asked and accepted for the role. So everybody on the nominating committee's list has been asked, and they have accepted. I know the historian candidate is not here. She's a school teacher, so we'll give her a free pass. She's teaching school. It's hard to be a women's group, and a lot of our ladies work. So I'm hoping that some of the new incoming vice regents will conduct programs in an evening or even a Saturday morning. But Sarah is part of the nominating committee, so she's going to help conduct these elections. So Sarah, if you would, we'll just take each office one at a time. She'll name who they've nominated. We'll see if there's any other nominations from the floor, and then if there's only the one nomination, we can have a voice vote.
For regent, the nominating committee nominates Diana Weiss.
The nomination's been made. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, Karen Scott seconds. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Sure. Okay, since there are no other nominations, we can conduct a voice vote. All those in favor of Diana Weiss being the regent for another 3 years, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
For the office of second vice regent, I'm sorry, for the office of vice regent, the nominating committee nominates Catherine Pursuit.
Catherine, would you stand for people who don't know you're voting for?
Betsy. Well, move.
Feel free to put all the parade around the room.
Do you have any campaign literature? Okay, so Calvin Preston has been nominated by the nominating committee. Do I have a second? Deidre Duncan seconds. Are there any other nominations for vice regent? Okay, being none, all those in favor of Catherine Preston for vice regent, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For the office of second vice regent, the nominating committee nominates Kimberly Wright.
And Kimberly, for those who don't know you, she is the local attorney in town, and she's already been very helpful to our chapter and is out of trouble. So Kimberly has been nominated. Do I have a second? Joan Bonnet seconds. Are there any other nominations for second vice regent? It being none, all those in favor of Kimberly Wright for second vice regent, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For the office of third vice regent, the nominating committee nominates Sarah Slavin.
Everybody knows Sarah. So the nomination for third vice regent for Sarah Slavin has been made. Do I have a second? Karen Brand would second that. Are there any other nominations? All those in favor of Sarah Slavin for third vice regent, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sarah's gonna nominate herself. That's awkward, you know?
For the office of chaplain, the nominating committee nominates Sarah Johnson.
Okay, Sarah's been nominated as chaplain for her final term. She's done a wonderful job. Do I have a second for Sarah's nomination? Okay, wonderful. Lavon Evans makes a second. Are there any other nominations for chaplain? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For the office of recording secretary, the nominating committee nominates Audrey Johnson.
We all know who Audrey is now, right? Okay. So Audrey's been nominated for recording secretary. Do I have a second? Okay, Joyce Wiegand second. Okay. So are there any other nominations? It's a job not everybody likes. We'll love it though. She has great communication skills. She'll be lovely. All those in favor for Audrey being recording secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For the office of corresponding secretary, the nominating committee nominates Linda Sorensen.
Linda is with us today. So Linda has been nominated. Do I have a second? Okay, it's been seconded. Are there any other nominations? Tell her your name. Sheila Kohler. Okay, Sheila Kohler. I knew Sheila, but Kohler lost me on that one. Okay. Sheila Kohler has seconded the nomination for Linda Sorensen. Are there any other nominations for corresponding secretary? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
For the office of treasurer, the nominating committee nominates Joan Bonnet.
Joan has been nominated for treasurer, and she is a CPA. This is my plug. She's going to keep us really on task and on, legal and everything. So. Okay. All right. So do I have a second for? Okay. Yeah. And there's seconds. Joan's nomination. Treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I'll have a little story to tell about this next nomination.
Yes.
For For the office of assistant treasurer, the nominating committee nominates Marjorie Block.
Okay, let's start now or after.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, let's elect her first, then we'll do.
Oh.
Okay, Marjorie
They
is,
may not want to.
Marjorie has been nominated for assistant treasurer. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Her sister seconds it here in Scott.
Way to go. Now I know who to believe.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for assistant treasurer? Hearing none, all those in favor of Marjorie for assistant treasurer, please say aye. Opposed?
Oh, come on.
Marjorie was asked if she would consider, she was had any interest in being on the board, and she said, any position but treasurer. So when Joan was asked to be our treasurer and be a nominee, she's, I said, well, there's a position for assistant treasurer. Who would you like to work with? She said, I really like that Marjorie Block. And Joan was not aware of the conversation. Marjorie said, anything but treasurer. And those are my sentiments exactly. I do anything but treasurer. Okay, great.
For the office of registrar, the nominating committee nominates Jane Martin.
Okay, Jane Martin has been nominated as registrar. And don't worry, Jane, you have Karen as a backup, assistant. And you have Sarah Slavin, that's a great genealogist too. So you have support. We'll give you all the support you need in your new role. So do I have a second for Jane Martin's nomination? Linda Sorensen would like to second that. Are there any other nominations? All those in favor of Jane being our new registrar, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
For assistant registrar, the nominating committee nominates Karen Brand.
Karen Brand has been nominated as assistant registrar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kimberly Wright seconds that. Are there any other nominations? Being none, all those in favor of Karen Brand as our assistant registrar, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And
The office of historian, the nominating committee nominates Jennifer Montgomery.
Jennifer is one of our newer members. She's a grade school teacher. She teaches 5th grade. She's been here a few times. She's a friend of Deidre. She's in the Fife and Drum Corps, and so she loves history. She's won a history award for the state, so she'd be an excellent choice for that. So Jennifer Montgomery has been. I have a second. Deidre seconds that. Are there any other nominations for historian? Okay, all those in favor for Jennifer Montgomery, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For the office of librarian, the nominating committee nominates Smith.
Denise is one of our newer members. She seems like she's been with us a long time ago. She participated and did a wonderful, wonderful job researching and displaying the life of Oscar Winfrey. Okay. If you want to know about Oscar Winfrey, ask the expert. She did such a phenomenal job. I said, we have to get you as a guest speaker. It's a great program. So anyway, I hope, she's also comes from a teaching background, and she has a very fascinating retirement job. You know how you retire just to get another career? She actually mentors, I'm going to put this so you guys can get the picture. She mentors athletes at Purdue to make sure they keep those grades up so they can participate. So sometimes I'm sure that can be a challenge. Athletes that I know are interested in athletics. Anyway, Denise has been nominated as librarian. Do I have a second? Karen Brand would like to second that. Are there any other nominations for librarian? Hearing none, all those in favor for Denise Smith as librarian signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to the nominating committee. If you were part of that nominating committee, would you stand so we can thank you? We need to start start a little teachers group in here. I look out here and we're getting more and more teachers. They just end up flock to the DAR. Anyway, okay, we are going to have our President General's report, and our outgoing Vice Regent is going to bring that report to us.
Thank you, Madam Regent. All right. Some of this from President General is a little repetitive, but I'm going to read the whole thing this time instead of reading parts of that and to benefit our new members that we have. Dear daughters, at the time of this publication, the District of Columbia remains in phase 2 of its reopening, meaning that indoor gatherings are still limited to 10 people and staffing remains at 25%. Because there are no assurances that these restrictions will be suitably eased by late June, we must again move our annual conference to a virtual format. I am deeply sorry. I was so looking forward to welcoming you back to headquarters, especially to see our restored DAR Constitution Hall. While it's sad to share this decision, I am determined that we will not allow the pandemic to stop us from recognizing the outstanding work of our members and the achievements of our award winners over the past year. And I am proud that we will conduct the business of the Continental Congress using technology. As important as our annual Continental Congress is to our National Society, it traditionally involves just 2% of our membership, 4,000 women out of nearly 190,000 members. It is so important to realize that the mission of DAR thrives 52 weeks a year in communities large and small in all 50 states and more than a dozen foreign countries, well beyond the week of Congress. Wherever you find the DAR chapter, you find passionate, patriotic women who find purpose in our wide-ranging committees that offer something for everyone, many of whom will never attend our annual conference. I have asked each of you to welcome at least one new member to that mission this year. The 2020 challenge offers the potential to welcome tens of thousands of women who share our love of country and who want to fulfill the 2021 joyful obligation we owe to our patriot ancestors on behalf of future organizations. Please invite that friend or work associate to research her family tree and join your chapter. Hold an in-person or virtual genealogy workshop through your local library. Use traditional and social media to invite others to join. Ask your family members to consider the many benefits of membership. Sometimes they are waiting only to be invited. I have found a rich sense of purpose as a citizen in service to society that I could find nowhere else, despite a wonderful family life, a rewarding professional career, and active community involvement. Through DAR, I have honored veterans, thanked active duty military personnel, preserved history, supported education, and welcomed new citizens. I have exposed young people to the joy of American history, and I have participated in worthwhile projects to protect our precious natural resources. I have also met the most outstanding women in America, women who share my commitment to honoring our patriot ancestors through service to others. I know that you too have found these things in today's DAR. That is why I ask you to help us grow, and not to simply expand the roster of a lineage society. I ask because what we do matters, and because I believe that our cause has never been more important to America's future. We live in a time when far too few people appreciate the values on which our nation was established. Help us to spread an appreciation for our many blessings by welcoming at least one new member to DAR. Can you do that? I have every confidence that you can. And by the way, why stop at just one? Rise and shine for America. Denise Doring Van Buren. Can I go ahead and give the conservation committee conservation moment it's called. Sheila Kohler is going to take over my committee. She knows lots more people, way lots more people than I do, so she's perfect for this position. I found an old article from the Audubon Society, which I like to read online. It's entitled 7 Women Who Made the World Better for Birds and People. And this is an older article, so. But anyway, it still bears significance. When we hear the word naturalist, we often think of Charles Darwin and his theories, John Muir, the father of national parks, and of course John James Audubon. But let's not forget the women who rallied to preserve the natural realm. From creating the first avian field guide to ending the feather trade to dying in pursuit of birds, these 7 films prove that the history of incredible women transcends any single month. And the first woman highlighted is Genevieve Estelle Jones, 1847 to 1879. Ohio native Genevieve Estelle Jones was a self-taught scientific illustrator christened the Other Audubon. After seeing some of Audubon's paintings at an exhibition, Jones decided to draw the nests and eggs of the 130 bird species nesting in Ohio at the time. But before she could finish, she died from typhoid fever at age 32. Her family spent the next 7 years completing the hand-colored plates, of which 90 copies were made, and only 26 still exist. I looked her up on the internet this morning, and her drawings are very, very beautiful. You should check her out. The next people, Harriet Lawrence Hemingway and Nina Hall, 1858 to 1960, and 1864 to 1944. This 2-woman dream team was responsible for taking down the 19th century plume trade and establishing the National Audubon Society, which is very significant. Appalled by the number of birds being killed in the name of fashion, Hemingway, an impassioned amateur naturalist, and her cousin Hall persuaded their socialite friends to boycott the trade and protect the wildlife behind it. Ultimately, they recruited 900 women to join the fight and gave rise to an establishment that a century later has grown to 1 million members and supporters strong. Pretty significant. Florence Merriam Bailey, 1863 to 1948. American nature writer and ornithologist Florence Merriam Bailey was a Jane of all trades. Not only did she work with the National Audubon Society during its early years, she's also credited for writing the first known bird guide, Birds Through an Opera Glass, published in 1889. A true pioneer in the field, Merriam protested the mistreatment, killing, and trade of feathered animals. Her legacy still remains in the form of a subspecies of the California mountain chickadee that was named in her honor. Rachel Carson, 1907-1964. Has anyone read Silent Spring? Yeah. Rachel Carson is most famous for her book Silent Spring, in which she bared the sins of the pesticide industry. In her later writings, the author and activist continued to examine the relationship between people and nature, questioning whether human beings are truly the dominant authority. Needless to say, she was an outspoken advocate for the environment and one of the greatest social revolutionaries of her time. There's a couple more women on here, but my throat is getting really dry. Audubon Society online, if you like birds, and it's a very interesting place to go to look at. And as we know, our region likes birds. So anyway, thank you.
I thought for sure Deidre was going to talk about the men who didn't generate one bit of trash for a whole year.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to, before we always hear from committee chairs. I don't know that many have a chairman's report, but I know at least one. Joyce, do you have a report you'd like to share? Joyce is our bylaws committee chair. And welcome back, Joyce. She's our snowbird. She's been in Florida, so we don't want to hear about it.
And I don't want to hear about snow either. I got back just in time.
It was beautiful.
I agree. It was beautiful, but it was cold. I came from 85 degrees to that.
Oh, you came home too soon.
You're right. I should still be there.
Take us with you.
I wanted to kind of bring everyone up to date on bylaws. We did make some changes last year. As Diane mentioned, we would have a third vice regent. And also, we needed to change, and this has already been passed. We needed to change, because of COVID, the quorum that we have, because we were afraid we wouldn't have enough members attend meetings where business
had to be taken care of and have approval on from the membership. So, we did change that also, but the most important thing I want everyone to know is before we can make any changes to our chapter bylaws, we have to present them to the state bylaws chairman. They approve of them before you even know that we're going to change them. And if they don't approve of them, we cannot make those changes. And we have, probably we'll have in the fall, a potential for another change in our bylaws coming up in the fall. And everyone will get a notice that comes to the meeting of what the current reading is for that particular bylaw that might be changed, and then the proposed change to that bylaw. But remember, it's already been approved by the state. It's just a matter of the membership also has to approve it. That's all I have. I just wanted to educate people.
That's good to have you back. You know how you, when somebody's missing, you know that. And it's been noticed, Joyce. So I have a report. From our good citizen chair, and I bet that I left it out. Do you want to get it, or do you want me to just kind of send? Okay. Okay, we want to thank Linda Sorensen. She always does such a beautiful job with our Good Citizen program and getting Judge Sean Person here to speak to inspire the young people. And because of COVID, it was an unusual year. We had to deliver between Deidre, myself, and Linda. We delivered the awards to these students' homes. And so Linda did another beautiful job choosing. Actually, the Good Citizen was the Libby Placer here today, and the other one who was the winner. Do you remember the name offhand? Or we just have one Good Citizen. Okay, so there was a winner for each school, and then one big winner, and that happened to be Libby. So anyway, I think I mentioned that earlier. So are there any other committee chairs who would like to come and give a brief report? Kathy Collins. Kathy and her sister are co-chairs of the ROTC National Defense. Okay, but it entails the ROTC. Okay.
Well, last year it was rather uneventful because, nothing happened. We did last year give out 3 awards, but we never got pictures of the recipients. We never heard anything from them. So this year was at least a little bit different. The DAR's ROTC, Navy, or back up. Navy's ROTC award recipient is Midshipman Mary Ruff. She was presented her certificate and her medal. And so this year at least we got a picture of the recipient. And then we did get a name, Cadet Anna Radofsky. She was the Army ROTC award recipient, and they were kind enough to send a photograph of her receiving her award. Air Force ROTC, not a word. Haven't heard anything. So at least we have some pictures of our 2 recipients, and we're excited about that. And so at least we have that to report this year.
All women, all women. Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
That's unusual. Are there any other committee chair who would like to make a brief report? Then I guess for some quick announcements before we close, I would like the new board to stick around afterwards. We're going to get a group picture. And also the Memorial Day flags. Our chapter's been asked to place flags on veteran graves in honor of Memorial Day. So if you are available for an hour or 2, please meet at the Greenbush Cemetery on Saturday, May 29th at 10 a.m. And that cemetery is where we do have our DAR marker honoring local Revolutionary War patriots. The Memorial Day Parade, I think we did get enough interest to go. I'm going to go ahead and turn that application in. So if you'd like to dress up, whether it's just a hat, in your street clothes, you can wear your fancy ball clothes. I know a lot of ladies had ball dresses made colonial attire or period attire that they'd like to wear more than once, you can wear that, just anything that you'd like. We'd love for you to be part of that. It takes about 30 minutes. If you have a vehicle you'd like to ride in, let me know. I need to register that vehicle. Otherwise, just show up and we'll try to have some flags to wave and such. And that's the lineup begins at 10 a.m. on Monday, May 31st. And the parade begins, this is Memorial Day, the parade begins at 11. And the Juneteenth celebration, I'm really proud to have been asked to serve on the committee for the community's first Juneteenth celebration. And for those of you who don't know what that is, when the Civil War ended and the slaves were emancipated, it took a while for that news to reach Texas. So on June 19th, that's when the slaves in Texas were liberated, and it is a state holiday for Texas, and I think other states have adopted it. And a very lovely African-American woman, many of you know her, Dr. Deanna McMillan. She is going to be leaving the community, and she wanted to be part of that first inaugural. It's going to be a yearly celebration, so that's going to be, it's tentative. I think Audrey's also on the committee. Is that going to be, I was out of the last meeting, so is that going to be on the bridge there between Lafayette and Lafayette?
Yes, I believe so. After we go park and the bridge, the application is submitted. We are highly confident that will all be approved in time, but that is right now still tentative, but probable.
And we're going to have an informational table with some of our Black history that we've researched and things about the DAR. And so if anybody would like to volunteer an hour of their time to man the DAR table, that would be great. It would give me a break. Anyway, it's going to be for a few hours before. So it's kind of fun just to congregate there. We have a few of you ladies, so get to know people as they come. It's been kind of a goal of mine. I know the DAR does have a certain reputation back in the 30s for not allowing Marian Anderson to sing at